God, please help us to set aside everything we think we know about ourselves, the 12 steps, this book, the meetings, our disease, and especially you, dear God, so we may have an open mind and a new experience with all these things. Please let us see the truth. And if anyone also needs our Venmo code, it's I can give that in the chat after we start. So tonight, it is with pleasure that I get to introduce Kurt. I've heard you speak before, Kurt, and I'm just so thankful that you get to come here to our group tonight to share your experience as it relates to FOR. So thank you so much for coming all the way to Bernardsville, New Jersey from California. Tonight, everyone, if we could please welcome Kurt. Thank you so much, my friend.
Thanks. Yeah, thank you very much. Kurt Zimmerman, alcoholic. Well, let me start with this. I'm just really grateful to be on Zoom with you guys. And I mean, I see some of these people, some of you guys I met on Zoom, I haven't even met in person, which is kind of cool. Jimmy, Marty, Federico, I mean, I could go on and on, John, Rob, and there's some people I've seen in other meetings and since the Zoom thing started. And it's funny how we get outside of our, like environment. It's really like the geographical locations. I know if my experience with this has been, it's unbelievable. I mean, I think it's just been, it's really deepened Alcoholics Anonymous for me. It's really. So I saw on the flyer that parts 1 and 2 tonight, and then so I think what I want to do is we'll we'll focus mainly on fear and sex next week, and we'll talk about resentment a little bit. And the way I'd like to start with this is how it's bookend, how inventory's bookend. It's between 3 and 5, and so I'm going to read something, and then I'm going to read something out of 5. I'll just read something out of 3. And it's on page 64. It says, it is an effort to discover the truth about the stock and trade. One object is disclose damaged and unsaleable goods. Get rid of them promptly without regret. If our owner of the business is to be successful, he cannot fool himself about value. We did exactly the same thing with our lives. We took stock honestly. First, we searched out the flaws in our makeup, which caused our failure. Being convinced that self manifested in various ways what defeated us, we considered its common manifestations. Paul talked on this last week. Self and us, two different things. You could say the self is the conditioned belief systems, ideas, what I've been taught. I came in here and I was misintroduced to God. Let's put it that way. When I grew up, I was misintroduced to this power based on other people's belief systems. And when I came in here, I got reintroduced to it through a process. Not that the process introduced me to it, that the process removed enough stuff for it to reveal itself to me in the way I understand. Like the book says, don't let any prejudice you have against spiritual terms deter you from honestly asking yourself what they mean to you, which is part of the self-searching. And this self-searching for me was like an unused muscle. I remember I broke my arm one time and it was in a cast for, 9 weeks. When they took the cast off, my arm just dropped to the side. Like I went to lift it. It was like I couldn't use it because it was atrophied, see? And that's exactly how self-searching was for me. I was asking all the wrong questions. Let's just be honest about it. I was asking all the wrong questions. And what happened here was I had to start to use that muscle that I'd never used because I'd always gone outside of myself for the answers. So I would say it, I'll give you an example. The first couple inventories I did, when we got into fear, I had a lot of fear of the unknown. And then 12 years ago, I really went into fear. I'll jump back into resentment because it's a secondary emotion. And I realized, it's impossible to fear something you know nothing about. The only thing that can construct something about something you know nothing about is the intellect, it's the mind. And what I realized was that wasn't at all what was the fear. The fear was losing the illusion of control of the known. It was about managing, which is what we were introduced to in the very beginning of the book. It wasn't about what the head told me. It was about losing the illusion of control of the known. And, this is very similar. I'll jump around a little bit here. This is very similar with near-death experience, people that are dying, people that are having to go. I've been around people that have passed and helped them make that journey, in fact. And one of the things that the biggest fear they have is leaving the family, leaving the kids, leaving, see, not going. And so that was like one example. Like there was like, see, I was just told that. I was told that and I thought, okay, that's it. See, I never really went into it to any depth. So this is like, that's what's so great about this. So I said this is bookend. So being convinced in various ways, this self, this conditioning, this belief system, these traumas, what's happened to me, my stories about what's happened to me, is a narrative that's created in the head. And like Coy has told me, he said, what happened to you and the story you create about what happened to you is not the same. Because you add to it, you take away from it. Time allows that. So this being convinced that self manifests in various ways what defeated us, we considered its common manifestations, not mine. But it says this in the book. We had this conversation the other day. It says, wait a minute, it says, first we searched out the flaws in our makeup. Well, the reason it's written that way, I think, is because they were still identified as self. It's real simple. If you're identified as self, you're going to call it yours. There's no difference between, it's kind of like if I say, I'm my thinking, it's the same thing as going, well, I'm not my thinking. I'm aware of my thinking. So there's a separation. Okay? And so that distinction's big. Now, in the fifth step, why is it bookend on the other? It says the exact nature of our wrongs. The nature of this condition of self. See, I was driven. I thought it was volition, just like I did when I came into AA. I thought I was choosing to drink and do all this stuff. I thought, and I was a bad person. See, it was the same thing. I thought, oh, when I drank again, well, you just didn't want to get sober. I didn't know I was powerless to get sober till I came to you guys. And when somebody said, well, just don't drink, and I couldn't pull that off, I created a story in my head. And the story was, well, you don't really want to quit. You don't care. See, on and on and on, which just produced guilt, remorse, because that's the effect of the condition of self. Guilt, remorse, self-pity, the book talks about it in a lot of different ways. Well, when you're identified as that, there ain't no way to be free from that. So inventory was, the way it was explained to me is we're going to look at the truth about the lies that we've been told and that we have and that we carry out, the lens we see through. It's conditioning. How did Jung say it? Jung said it like this. He said, until we make the unconscious conscious, we will live our life and call it fate. There it is. It's like, you want to do the right thing and you keep screwing up. And then you create a story about why you're screwing up, what a bad person you are. It's all the same thing. And it seems like to me, I mean, I've been here since 1979. So it seems like everybody else is doing the same thing. It's not like some new thing I invented. And it's kind of like circular, it's like, it's like when I first came into AA, I thought, well, I'm identifying with these people. No, I'm not. I'm identifying totally with the condition that's driving these people. It's a big difference. Then later on, I was identifying with, the sacredness of everybody. That came later. So let me just give you an experience that made this kind of land for me. And it was an experience with my pops. I had a resentment towards my pops. And the resentment it was real simple, it was short. He wouldn't come see me in prison. And, it hurt, threatened, and interfered with pretty much everything but sex. Self-esteem, pocketbook, ambition, personal relationships, my pride, And it's funny, I didn't see this the first couple of times in the inventory. Every time one of those is hurt, threatened, or interfered with, it activates a fear. So what happened was I was doing all the writing, and I did my little sick man prayer, and I was praying, and my fourth column looked like this: you're the one that robbed the liquor store, you're the one that got yourself in prison. It was very surface. Which is where we start from. But intuitively, I knew I hadn't got to something. I knew I wasn't touching whatever they were trying to get to in inventory. And I called all the heavy hitters, and I called Coyus, I think I called Joe, I called Don Pritz, I just did all the people that, that I knew how to do this. And they all said the same thing, just you need to pray, and I'm like, okay. Then a question was given to me. The question was really funny, because the question was, what were you really up to? And then the answer was given to me. And I thought, I didn't give a damn whether my dad came to see me in prison. What I cared about was, if he didn't show up, I wouldn't have money in my commissary. He didn't show up, I wouldn't know who was on the visitors list. If he didn't show up, I wouldn't know what was going on in the free world. See? And it was like, once I saw one thing, it was like a domino effect. It wasn't something I was producing analytically or rationally. It was just kind of this is given. This is insight. This is revelatory. This is that. And I thought, oh my God. And as soon as that third domino fell, the resentment dropped towards my pops. It just dropped. It was like seeing the Santa Claus doesn't exist. It was done. I didn't have to revisit it 3 weeks later. It was a finished deal. And then the really, really hard part, the thing that just leveled me, hit me, like the fourth domino. And the fourth domino was this. I had never seen my father as my father. I had always seen him as a pawn on my chessboard of life. And it crushed me. And it crushed me in a good way, not in a bad way. It crushed me in a way that I was looking through a lens that I didn't know I was looking through. And it was only when I saw that could I see the lens that I was looking through. The possibility to see from this perspective wasn't available until I could see clearly what was going on. And I got, oh, this is what they're talking about in inventory. Discover the obstacles in your path. See, I approach this completely the way most of us do when we get here, right? Because this is what we have to work with. It's like, okay, I'm going to go to class. I'm going to take the test. I'm going to do really good on the test, cross T's, dot the I's, and I'll get a good grade. But this is a spiritual process. And it has a whole different system of principles, laws, and values that it works by. And I'm not familiar with them until they're revealed, or until a sponsor or a mentor or somebody helps me see with a different lens. And so that was the first experience I had with inventory, where I could really see, oh, this is the spirit of what they're talking about. It's not the mechanics of what they're talking about. A lot of us have been around here a long time. We know the mechanics. We the mechanics, I did all the mechanics and drank in 20 years. And, I'm not saying that as failure. I'm saying that was just part of my being surrendered process. Some of you guys were surrendered before you got here. My path was that line was moved into AA. I crossed the T's, dot the I's. I worked with people. I did all the things Joe told me to do. I did all the things, that I was taught. And then, I went back to sleep. I did, I did exactly what it says in, it talks about in 10. It says it's easy to let up on the program of action. It says, probably the only place in the book it says it's easy. And that's what happened. I got caught up in life. I got caught up in all the things. And, the next thing you know, you got a drink in your hand. You don't even know it. And that was the burning of the dross off the gold. That was like, I wouldn't have told you that when it was happening. Getting out of 5150 a couple of times and being sent off to treatment by Coyus and my ex-former wife, I wouldn't have told you that. But part of this process, is I am so grateful today that at 19 years, me drinking again, what happened was when that collapse happened, or that release happened, or that revelatory experience happened, what it revealed was for 19 years, I had just been managing well with spiritual principles. There was no freedom. There was a lot of relief, a lot of whack-a-mole, a lot of skillful means of effort, a lot of spiritual bypass. We have all these names for it. So part of that process, and some of you guys heard me, and part of that process was how Coyus explained it to me, with Johnny Lickencloud and a stick in the sand when he went to him. He said, you think this is like a straight line? He said, that's not the path. The path is the footprints off the path. So I'll just tell you the story because some of you probably hadn't heard it, but he said, he went to Johnny Lickencloud, the guy that was sober a long time, when he had about 4 years sober, which would have been, 40 years ago. And he was, it was this kind of back and forth, right and wrong kind of duality kind of thing. And Johnny Lickencloud said, look, he said, you're 3 or 4 years, you're right where you're supposed to be. He said, why don't you come outside? He took his cane, he drew a 20-foot line in the sand. He said, I want you to walk on this line. And Coyus got on the line, he started walking. And as he was walking, Johnny Lickencloud came up to the left and pushed him off the line. And he, about 5 steps over, kind of lost his balance. He said, now get back on the line. He said, well, what'd you do that for? He said, never mind, just get back on the line. So he walked a little further, he went the other side of him, pushed him the other way. He said after about 6 or 7 times, he was really getting pissed off because he wouldn't tell him why he was doing it. He said he got to the end of the line, he turned around, he said, look, he said, you think this line is the path? It's not. And he put his hands out like this and he said, see those footprints off and on and off and on? That's the path. They called it the red road. We call it the 12 steps, this way of living, right? And when he told me that story, I wasn't doing anything wrong by drinking in 19 years. I was trying to connect to wholeness. Because I'd done all the things here and I wasn't getting the fruit. So I quit doing it. It was just normal. I mean, it was so clear to me. And when I saw that I couldn't um, when I saw that I was managing with the ego's interpretation of spiritual principles or self, the intellect, the mind, the possibility to be free from self was available. And that's what Claudius was telling me. That you don't need to be in fear and anxiety. And when I say fear, I'll jump back. I'm not talking about fear, fight or flight. I'm talking about psychological fear, which is mental anxiety. And our book says the main object is to discover the obstacles in our path, and the main problem centers in the mind. It's a perceptual thing, right? And if I'm listening to a narrative in my head about a story, it's usually based in some kind of past event or future tripping. And guess what? I'm not here. I mean, I'm here. I can't be anywhere else, but I'm not here because I have that mental overlay. See, I'm not seeing with clarity. I'm not seeing with presence. I'm not seeing with truthfully. I don't have access. I love the way Bill wrote the book when he said access to and believes it. You access this, guaranteed you'll believe it. Won't be the other way around. If you access it, you'll believe it. It will reveal to you the reality of what you're trying to believe. And you'll realize that your belief system was just, you were trying to believe something you didn't believe in the first place. And we talk about this in the book. We talk about it, Bill talked about it, and we agnostics. And we even, Clint, some of us, we do a little group on Tuesdays. Usually right now. But the beginning of that group was this, it was this part in We Agnostics. It said, without knowing it, this is the key. Without knowing it, you've been brought here by a certain kind of faith. What are they talking about? Without knowing it. I didn't have to get faith. I had it already. I just had it in my thinking. I had it in my thinking mind, in my thinking. I depended upon my thinking. The book said, got a reason. They capitalize it. They give us all kind of pictures. They're trying to point to that. Now, without knowing it, see, that's the key. See, I went around here for 20 years, didn't even know that. I thought I had to get it. See, I totally missed that part of the book. It's those kind of things you just don't see. So it was involved all along. Oh, it makes sense. That's what the book's talking about. Faith was involved all along. Oh, got it. So what am I doing with this thing? I'm shifting that faith based on a revelatory experience I had in the second step. And I'm going to start depending on that thing. And I'm going to discover the obstacles that are blocking for me. These conditions of self, not me, conditions of me. They're conditions of self that use me to manifest in the world. And they use you the same way. That's been my experience. I've watched the same thing with other people. They drive us to the same places. They activate the same depression. They activate the same, it might manifest a little different, but we all experience the same thing. So, in 10 it says continue to watch, right? With what? What does that mean? Continue to watch. It means there's some conscious awareness that can pay attention, right? That's separate from these conditions of self. We continue to watch for selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, right? Fear. It doesn't say continue to listen. If I'm listening, I'm in so. If I'm watching, there's some removal from that viewing. It's a different viewing platform. That book says it's a position of neutrality. It's like, this is the, so it was like, and it was like evolution and maturation towards wholeness. This is an Al-Anon, kind of in the promise of Al-Anon. This is like, I didn't start here. I did everything wrong here, if you want to put it right and wrong paradigm. But it's not wrong. It's just like, it's the corrective measures. What's corrective measures? It means identify a mistake, and a corrective measure is, that's the zigzag on the line. That's how we grow. So, everybody says it differently. Ken Wilber says spiral dynamics. Richard Rohr says, the pattern of reality. There's all these guys that say the same thing. We say how it works, not how I work it, how it works. Principles, laws, and values that are working perfectly, they're in motion. That's the way Koyas explained it to me. He said, and you're out of sync with that. You're out of harmony with that. Once you get in harmony with that, there's a clarity that comes. And the book calls it, your thought life's placed on a higher plane. The mind cannot know this. The intellect cannot know this. It doesn't know what peace is. The mind is trying to produce peace through activity. That's what the mind's trying to do. So it's like, and it's not one step, it's, they're all interconnected, right? So we just say, it's, but I think, and Paul said this last week, and I totally agree with him. It's like, why is it made a decision in the third step? How come it's not we turn our will on life over? Why is it made a decision? Well, based on what I'm saying, you realize you ain't had control of it anyways. You've been driven the whole time. I mean, that's the bottom line. The bottom line is I was driven. I didn't even know I was driven. I thought I was driving. That was the difference. So it was like making the decision, was like, Koya said this to me when I was drinking down in Newport Beach when I went out at 19 years. And he made this statement. He said, listen, he asked me a question. He said, 1986, when you took the third step with Joe, he said, were you serious? I said, shit, I couldn't have been more serious. I said, I was working with people, I was sober, I was in workshops, I was doing all the things. And it seemed like the phone was silent for about 3 minutes. It probably was 10 seconds because I was drinking, or we have a look at those time lapse. And he said, well, I'm going to tell you something. You're not going to understand it. And this was key because he said, you're not going to understand. He said, all this is part of that decision. Would you call my wife and tell her that, please? Because I need a little help here. And what he meant by that was, later on, I got that. I understood that. See? Everybody's got their own path here. God forbid somebody has to drink after many years. I would hate to see that. But that was my journey, And boy, I'll tell you what, one thing it gave me is it gives me a deep appreciation for sobriety every day. I wake up, I go to that beach, and I thank God I ain't drunk in the juniper bushes. I ask God to direct my thinking because I know what that narrative and that story and that false sense of self can do when you're identified as it. And I know that we're bigger than that. We're way, way bigger than that. I just didn't know it. It wasn't a direct experience. It wasn't integrated. It wasn't something I could live out of. It was great information, and it was all part of the process. And that's what it says. What we really have is a daily reprieve. I missed all that. I missed that. Too many years, not enough days. I was stuck in time. you know. I don't, it's not my badge to wear anymore. I could give a shit. You know, that I was asked to come on here and be with you guys, that's a great privilege as far as I'm concerned, you know. And to talk about a little bit about this, you know, inventory. And, you know, how do you make a fearless and moral inventory? If you're identified as all that stuff, you can't make it fearless. I couldn't. I didn't want to look at all that stuff in the beginning. That's how it all starts. I wasn't talking about in the fifth step. I wasn't talking about the exact nature. I didn't get to that till after being here 25 years. I got to what I did, not where it came from. It was all about guilt, remorse, self-pity. It was all about that. I didn't get to the nature of where all that stuff was coming from. Belief systems, old ideas, how I was conditioned. My brother asked me for 10 years, what's wrong with you? Because of the way I drank. He said, what's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? 10 years I heard that. You know the assumption I came up with after 10 years? There's something wrong with me. We have no idea the conditioning. And that's why we keep doing inventory, because stuff keeps coming up. And that's why we do 10 steps. That's why we talk to people, because it's a process of evolution and maturation towards wholeness. Nobody's going to be perfect here. That's one of the gifts here. We're not arriving anywhere. It's just part of the deal. It's funny, Linda says to me, I can't imagine you being angry. But we've been together 7 years. She cannot imagine me being angry. Now, I wish she'd call my ex-wife and she'd go, well, I can. It's a different perception of the same environment, right? We have a shift in our perception. We have a shift in the way we see, not think. We see, and then the thinking changes, right? And some of us, we act our way into that. You know, we just act like, okay, somebody told me to do this. I got to do it. I don't want to do it. You start wherever you are. You know, one of the things I like to say, and you guys have heard me say it, there's a real lack of interest in what's not happening anymore in my life. I'm not driven by a narrative in my head. I'm pretty much present most of the time. Most of the people that know me know that. I move pretty even keel through life. That's all I ever wanted. You know, and I'm not a, well, I use this metaphor because I sit at the ocean all the time, and it's an Eastern thing, but it's like, I used to think I was part of the ocean. You know, I'm just a wave in the ocean. And I realized that ain't true. I'm not part of the ocean. I'm a divine expression of the ocean. I'm a manifestation of God's will, just like everybody else in this thing. And Koya says your original medicine. And when that landed, that gave me esteem. In a way I could never get esteem. In a mimicked way, booze gave me a sense of ease, a sense of peace, a sense of comfort. Grey Goose chilled preferably. It gave me a sense of ease and comfort. That's what I was trying to get to. And I didn't even know that's what I was trying to get to. That irritable, restless, discontent nature, that existential crisis of unworthiness, we call it shame, whatever you want to call it. I don't care what you call it. That feeling of separateness. I don't feel separate anymore. That's all I ever wanted. And, you know, inventory was part of that process. So I think I'm done, Luann. Thanks. Thanks for having me.
I don't see a Ray.
All right. Let's get Clinton Jones. Come on, Clint. You're muted, buddy.
At the top, Clinton, there you go. You're unmuted now.
You got me unmuted. Thank you, Luann. Thank you, Kurt. Hey, I just before you called on me, Ray popped up on the front page, so I don't want to take it away from Ray, but I was that's not what I expected to hear, Kurt, from you. I mean, I hear you all the time, and so I already had an idea how that was going to go. It was great. I love it. It's the same story, I think, for most of us. We all have the same experience, and I think so. So that's my story as well. And it continues to change. I mean, I had that. I had so much resistance to doing an inventory, in the beginning, and I love doing them now because I mean, there's no reason not to do this stuff because, I did it. I mean, that's what keeps me awake at night. Mm-hmm. Just thinking about all this stuff, but just has tough stuff putting it on paper. But I really like the example you used about your dad, Kurt. I've heard it before. Something that I've been around for a while myself, and something comes up to me with just recently. This landed on me that one of my biggest defects of character was avoidance. A lot of people call that procrastination, but I always avoided having to look at what's going on with me I made my living, purposely made a living by getting away from people. I was solo. I didn't get along with people, and I just loved avoiding people, and I loved having to explain. I just avoided everything, and what happens from that avoidance when the voice gets loud enough. When the voice got loud enough, I had to drink to make that go away. I had to avoid life. I had to drink. I suffered terribly. I don't suffer well. So it was easy for me to drink. I constantly was driven back to drinking because alcohol was not my problem. Alcohol was the solution for me to try to live life, to walk lightly. It felt like I was walking lightly by doing that. So I just love you, brother, and I love seeing our other brothers on here. I saw Chris R on here when we started, and I don't see him anymore, but I sure would have liked to heard from Chris. But anyways, it's good to be here, and thank you, Kurt.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, buddy.
Thank you so much. And Ray, please, I think your hand went by in a flash, and I apologize that I missed it. If you could please unmute, we'd love to hear from you.
Should be able to unmute now, Luann.
There we go.
There you are. Okay. Thank you, Ray.
Hear me?
Yes.
John's so good at his job. The talk was awesome. It's a message that I'm used to hearing from Kurt, and it really resonated very strongly tonight. I think it's just the message itself in our need for clarity. Sometimes you just have to wait for it. And when it comes, it's like a bolt of lightning. And I think that what Kurt shared today for me was the realization that we have to keep on coming back to these steps every year. I mean, I think I learned that from Mary Thayer in the sense that she's been doing that for many years now, I think going on 8. And every time we get together to do the steps again, I noticed that there is a peeling off, like a layer has been shed each year. And as those layers peel away from me, I get a new point of view, a new clarity, a new pair of glasses. And because of that, I'm able to see a little deeper. And I think that with our inventory specifically, I've had to go back in many times and dig through the clutter and the mold and the residue of these boxes that I stacked away, thinking, I don't really need to deal with those. Those are issues that aren't really that important. But as the years go by, they become very clear to me that they need to be pulled out into the sunlight with the spirit and opened up and really addressed and looked at, because in that looking, we see that the mold, the debris, the grossness of it all needs to be rectified if we are to move forward and find our connection with Spirit, with God. And I think that what Kurt shared was indelibly to the point on that, and I'm thankful for it. Thank you, Kurt. And that's my share.
Thank you so much, Ray. And again, if everyone could please thank Kurt for coming all the way to Bernardsville, New Jersey to hang out with us tonight. What a great talk. So, Kurt, we usually close with a prayer of your choice. So however you want to take us out, and we're going to see you next week. And I'm not sure if John recorded this session tonight. No? Okay. Somebody usually does, but we'll see. So Kurt, if you could please close out with a prayer of your choice. Thank you again.
Thank you.
You happen to, and again, I'm going to put our 7th Tradition Venmo code. If people could please, make a 7th contribution, that's awesome. So I don't see. Oh, Jack, thank you.
Hi, I'm Jack. I'm an alcoholic. Kurt, it was great to hear you. Our paths of sobriety kind of mirror each other, especially the part about going out after a long time. And I think that when I came back into AA after being out for a year and a half, and all that stuff is a story in itself, but I do feel as though that was part of my path. I got to be honest with you. After I was sober for a few years, I thought I would never drink again. And the longer I went in sobriety, the more convinced I became of that I wouldn't drink again. And I went through this process early on, like you did. I had a sponsor that was ex-military, and that's how he brought me through the steps. And he knew a lot. And I did a thorough 4th and 5th step. Everything was on it. I didn't miss anything. But I knew when I was writing down one resentment that I was not going to be able to forgive it. I knew I was not going to go and make any type of amend. I knew it when I was writing it down. I knew it when I told it to my sponsor in the 5th step. And anyway, that resentment, unknown to me, is why I found myself with a drink in my hand 26 years later. So it was all exactly like the book said, Resentment, #1 offender, destroys more alcoholics than anything else. And the reason why I had that resentment, and there was nothing I could do about it for 26 years, is because I couldn't forgive. I couldn't forgive it. It was a resentment I had my whole life, from childhood. And that resentment actually made up my personality and who I was. So, there's been a lot written about forgiveness in spiritual texts. In fact, I think every single one of them. Anyway, when I stayed out for a year and a half drinking, and when I came back in, I realized that's what it had happened. That it was my inability to forgive that resentment that brought me back out. And I guess the good part about, the story is after that, I was able to forgive it finally. And and a lot of peace came when I did. Yeah. So, I like you, Kurt, enjoy traveling lighter today. And my life has gotten a lot better because I fully surrendered finally to the third step and to all the steps. And yeah, it was really good to hear you, Kurt. I really enjoyed what you have to say, and I think you're an awesome manifestation of what I won't say, but you probably have an idea. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you, Jack. And the next hand I see is Dave B.
Thanks, thanks, Kurt, and that's what I was thinking about is the manifestation. The word you said is manifestation of God's will. I thought that was pretty interesting. I heard that something a long time ago when I was in the penitentiary, and something about the manifestation of the West coming over. But and another, where you read the part where the we don't take a regular inventory of ourselves, or a business usually goes broke, and it says it's easy to let up on the spiritual program of action. And I got sober in 1994. That's when I realized, after a long time of drinking and stuff, and hit bottom, homeless and all that. But I got into a treatment place, and I did the 28-day program, and they let me stay there. And then I was at this one place and taking an inventory, and I had went to this school, just for basically, I don't know, for the student loans and good time and stuff. But it was in 1994, and I remember I called them up, and it was in 84, 5 that I took these loans out, and it was like 17,000 I got out of them in 3 years, and flunked out of college, but drinking and all that. But I called them up, and I told them that I wanted to consolidate them. I didn't really. Somebody said something about it, and I called them up, and I got them consolidated. And then I stayed with them all these years. And one thing I did is just the other day they sent me a letter back, and I had disability here 3 years ago and so forth, and they discharged my my deal, and I guess that is the manifestation of God's will, and I think that we stick with this program, and even though I fall off the spiritual part a lot, and but it does work. It does. Something happens, and it's pretty amazing what this program does for me. So I appreciate everybody, and I'll pass. Thanks.
Thank you, Dave. And the next hand I see is Craig. You know, Craig.
Hi, Craig, alcoholic, and thank you very much, Kurt. I really needed to hear that. I've got some time up myself, but I realize, especially when I hear a story like yours, just how ephemeral that is, and how temporary it is, and how little it has to do with my mind. Your talk is a great follow-on to me on Paul's, and it reminded me. There's another guy I listened to who said, you said the mind is trying to create peace through activity, and this guy I listened to, his take on that is you got a better chance of, looking for peace. You got a better chance of finding a turtle with a mustache, than going out and trying to create it. But if you let go, you'll peace will find you. God, now there's some stuff I got to do, and your share today is a reminder of that. I've got to do this, especially when I don't feel like doing it. That's exactly when I need to get down on my knees and hit the meditation and do all of that stuff. But that's not a guarantee. And just being able to check the boxes, which is where I was at when I came in too, is that, well, maybe the boxes will stay sober. Who knows? But it's not going to do much for me unless I actually do something. So I really appreciate your share, and thank you very much. Thanks for keeping me sober another day.
Thank you, Craig. And next hand up, we have Rob S. from Louisville.
Hey, I'm Rob. Rob alcoholic. Thanks, Kurt. So I got a long history in AA. I came in 1984. I was one of the Betty Ford, and just they stuck us all on treatment. I was 18 years old, and we were like the first group of young people going to treatment. And I went to this treatment center, and I showed up, and they're like, "You got feelings, and you got these." I said, "Feelings?" He said, "Well, what kind of feelings you got?" I said, "Mad and angry." I didn't have a clue, dude. I was so lost when I got the treatment. So then I came home, and I did this 4-step, and it was a joke. It was like a 147 questionnaire. And then I did another 4-step, cleaned up all this stuff in my past, got drunk again. Actually, I got drunk when I came back from treatment. Got drunk again, did a 4-step, did another one, and it was the same thing. Just go clean up the records of your past. And then I did this one with this guy, and I found after I read it and got done, it was a different way of writing it. I stood up, and he's like, "What?" And I drew a circle around me. I said, "For the first time in my life, I feel safe and protected." And he's like, "It's okay. Don't trip out on me." Now, I was blown away. And then it wasn't 2 months later, before he said, "Look, if you don't do 10, 11, 12, you're done. I'm telling you right now, dude. If you don't do 10, 11, 12, you're done. You're going to drink." And I drank. And that was a while back, and I got 5 years now. If it wasn't presumed, I don't think I'd have found this separation, what Kirk talks about. I see it now, and just recently through meditation, I only thought I was meditating, dude. I wasn't meditating. Now I just do a simple breathing in and out. I see the pause, and when I stop, this mind will start chattering in my head, and I see it now. And I got some relief out of that. And more has been revealed. And I'm not angry, and I feel safe and protected. And I realized a little while back that I wasn't doing page 86. It says ask for intuitive thought. I'm like, I don't do that, dude. I say, "God help me, thy will be done." I don't say, I need a little intuitive thought. I need something, And I did it all day today, dude. And then this one thought would come in. It was about my wife. It wasn't even true, dude. I don't even know where it came from. It's like, dang, I'm like, dude, shut up, dude. And I went on with the rest of my job for the day. It's amazing, dude. I'm so glad, to be in AA because I don't know I'm just one of the lucky ones. I'll tell you that. I've buried a lot of my friends, dude. A lot, and it doesn't stop, And yeah, I'm glad to be here. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much, Rob. And next up, we see Tina. Hi, Tina.
Okay, I'm gonna try. Hi, everybody. Tina, alcoholic. Hey, Luann.
Hey.
Kurt. Oh my goodness, what a message. I wish I could figure out how on my iPhone to do all this video stuff, but I can't. So I apologize for that. But I have to tell you, this is exactly what I needed because I woke up this morning and I have what my sponsor would call rid. I had to get rid of something. I was really restless, irritable, and discontent today. And I walked through the entire day kind of knowing that there was just something bothering me, and I just really had to get to a meeting. And then, of course, I show up at this meeting, and I can't tell you how much I just kind of kept writing throughout the whole thing. I was just going to sit back and listen and just chill out and like get the message, and then I just couldn't because there was so much that you said that, gosh, it resonated with me. My journey in this program has been long and hard with many, many relapses. And I loved what you said about the line is not the path. The steps on and off are the path, because that was so true for me. And also the piece about without knowing, faith was involved all along, because when I finally surrendered and went through the steps, I had this, and I wasn't introduced to God, like you said in the beginning. I was misintroduced to God early in my childhood. So this reintroduction was all new to me. And for some reason, and I know nothing much about the Bible, this Ephesians 2:8 kept coming to me kind of in my dreams. And so I finally looked it up, and it says something about, it is by grace that you have been saved by faith, but it's not from your own doing. It's a gift from God. And I thought to myself, the only thing that has kept me in this program is not Tina. It has to be some other power, because I have way too much ego and it's just too hard to keep coming back. But something always made me come back. And it was so powerful to me that, like, 60-year-old me got a tattoo that says grace on her arm, because I do never want to forget that this was a gift from God, So thank you so much. Heard exactly what I needed. I'm lighter. The rid is gone, and I really appreciate you being here. Thanks so much for letting me share.
Thank you, Tina. And what a great meeting. I mean, I'm just so thankful that we had so many people just present, Kurt. So what a great talk. Kurt, if you see anybody that